Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Amy Muriungi of SK Insurance Agency. Like promised, today we're going to talk about medical insurance. But first off, what is insurance? So insurance is a contract between a policyholder, that is you, and the insurance company, where you are required to pay a premium or an amount, and then insurance takes over a risk. Okay, so what is medical insurance, if you're wondering? So medical insurance is the contract again between yourself and an insurance company for medical expenses, where you pay a premium and the insurance company takes over your medical bills to an extent. So you have different levels of insurance, okay, on what you're purchasing. So I know many people ask me, do I really need medical insurance? And the question varies a lot from different age sects, from what I have seen. So the young ones would be thinking, what is medical insurance? Why do I need it? Especially when you've just come off the age where your parents were taking care of your medical insurance. And at about 25, 26 years old, you're now required to buy medical insurance for yourself, unless you're still in school and your parents have to prove. But most times, by the time you're turning 24 onwards, we're phasing you off your parents' cover, right? So what should you look for when buying medical insurance, or if you already have medical insurance? So one, if you already have medical insurance in place, I need you to go look at what are your benefits. You'll be surprised how many times I have met people who, yes, they say they have medical insurance, but if you ask them what are their limits, they have no idea. They know they have medical insurance. One, it's either been provided for by your employer, it's been provided for by your partner's employer, and you really have never looked at it. All you know is that you have an overall limit. So this is what to look out for. One, know what is your overall limit. So if your overall limit would be the maximum that insurance is willing to pay in case you're hospitalized. So it could amount from 500,000 all the way to 10 million, 20 million. That's for local insurance, okay? But that's not all that you need to know on that insurance policy. I need you to go further and check the most critical things that you must know from the start, so that you know what your risk, what risk remains. One, check for what they call newly diagnosed critical illness. This is a limit, this is a cap that they put. So for example, if your cover is 2 million shillings, for newly diagnosed critical illness, the cap might be 750,000 shillings. What that means is that in the first year of you being diagnosed with a critical illness, and critical illnesses are named. So this is like the cancers, the kidney failure, paralysis, stroke. There's a limit. So what I mean is that in case in this year of you running your insurance starts from January to December, for example, and your overall cover limit is 2 million shillings. And now for acute illnesses are things like pneumonia, malaria, something that you're going to heal from, okay? You're in hospital for a while, your insurance will cover you to the overall limit, the 2 million. So if you're in an accident and you're hospitalized, your insurance should be able to cover you to the overall limit. However, if you're hospitalized for something that is, while you're in hospital, is diagnosed as a critical illness, like this person is coming in, they've fallen into a diabetic coma. You didn't even know you had diabetes, but now they've decided this is a diabetic coma. One, or you've gone in and you've hypertension, you've gotten high BP that has led to some sort of admission. Now they know you have high blood pressure. So now this illness and this admission that you're having will now be considered a chronic illness. Okay, so your limit at that first time of them diagnosing you will go down. So that first year, you're covered to 750,000 shillings and not the 2 million. The other limit to look out for, one, we've mentioned, look out for your overall, look out for what newly diagnosed chronic limits would be, look out for what pre-existing condition limits would be. So pre-existing. So we've moved on, we finished the year 2025, we're in 2026, you've renewed your cover. In the year previously, you were diagnosed with this critical illness. So in the next year, that limit that they gave you for the 750 has fallen lower. So now we are like at about 400,000. For any admissions with this illness, whatever it was, maybe hypertension has led you to hospital, you've been admitted because of diabetes, you've been admitted because of your heart condition, you've been admitted because of cancer, whatever it is, your limit has now fallen. So we've discussed the overall limit, we've discussed newly diagnosed critical illnesses, we've discussed pre-existing conditions. Mostly, sometimes maybe you came onto cover and you're signing up for cover and you already have a pre-existing condition. It's important for you to check what they'd cover for that limit. Please don't assume. Please don't go in and say, oh, insurance is bad, they're not covering me, I paid for insurance. From the start, pre-existing conditions already have a cap on them. So it's very important for you to look at that. Apart from that, let's now look at the exclusions. Because there are things that people come in with and they don't know would be an exclusion. For example, any tests for a sexually transmitted illness is not covered by insurance. Yes. So if you went and unfortunately you've been diagnosed with an STD of sorts, that's not going to be covered by insurance. You need to know that, so that then you're not blaming insurance for not paying the end of the bargain. In short, anytime you buy medical insurance, there are those key things that you might look out for. Look out for, are you being admitted because maybe perhaps you got alcohol poisoning? So you've gone into hospital and they are diagnosing you with maybe liver cirrhosis, okay? Your liver has been eroded and it's because of alcohol. Be sure that will not be covered. There are specific exclusions that are put on insurance that you need to look out for, okay? That's what to look out for when you already have the cover or when you're buying the cover. Things to consider if you're buying cover for an individual, for a family. For corporate, it's pretty different, because for corporates and SMEs, where the company is taking it upon themselves to buy insurance for you, the employee, it's different. They'll consider their budget, they'll decide what minimum, but you have nothing, you have no say in that. But again, when your employer is telling you that you have insurance, it's take up whatever they're giving you, look at your benefits. Ask to understand what you're covered for and where your limits are. You know why? You could have medical insurance that's been provided for by your employer. However, it could be limiting. So that when you're being diagnosed with a critical illness, if you blow that cover, then what? If you hit the maximum and you still need treatment, then what happens? This is where we go back to now you're going back into your own pocket to cover that gap. But we do have critical illness covers out here that you can buy to supplement the medical insurance that you have in place. Please take a note of that. When you're buying, I go back to when you're buying cover for your family, for yourself, consider a few things. A way to save money, one, would be when you look at your family dynamics and how you use medical insurance. Are you prone to a lot of consultations with the doctor? If not, an inpatient cover would do. Because there's an age where if you're very lucky, you're not going to hospital much, okay? So you only need the inpatient, because the inpatient is what would put a dent in your pocket. For the outpatient services, the one consultations now and then, you can do that out of pocket. However, if you're comfortable, just take then the in and the out. Consider your usage. So different, or what I advise is for different families have different needs. So there are those families that only want to go to the Tier 1 hospitals. The Tier 1 hospitals are the Nairobi, the Aga Khan, the Karen Hospital, the Mata. Those are the only hospitals you want to visit. So there are products that different insurance companies have come up with where if those you only want to access Tier 1 hospitals, then you pay a little extra than somebody who chooses to do the Tier 2 or Tier 3 hospitals. Okay? They'll pay a little less. Of course, all local insurance companies have panels. They have panels of hospitals and clinics that you can access. So it's not open like you can go to anyone or any consultant. No, you're limited to that. I also considered you need to have the dental and the optical when you're deciding what medical insurance you have. If you're in the way of family or planning to have a family, ensure that you're selecting to have maternity cover. Some of the insurance companies out here, you have to select maternity as an option. Some of them have now redeveloped their products where maternity is included. Whether you need it or not, it's included in the policy. Very important because maternity has a waiting period. I guess that's about it. If you have any questions or you want to get into to buy medical insurance, please consider talking to us. I've had the question of child-only policies. And this could be because of various reasons. One, you have an employer who's decided that they are only covering yourself and maybe a spouse, and now the children are not being covered, or they're covering just you. You've left Kenya, and this is now for my diaspora people. So you've left Kenya. We have a lot of export of services. So you're now in Qatar, or you're in Dubai, or you're in Saudi Arabia, or you've even gone to that Canada. You've left the country for greener pastures, but you've left your children behind. And when you leave your children behind, you're leaving them in the care of someone else. All right? And some ways that money you're not able to plan yourself is when you have emergency cases. So you have people calling you off the hook and asking for money to take care of your family. Okay? So to take care of your family. So there are child-only policies that you can have. Policies where you're only buying for your child. That's one of the ways you can ensure that your children are able to get medical attention. So you may be wondering how insurance companies determine your premium. So the premium is pegged on your age. So different age groups have different covers. We have covers for senior citizens, all right? And senior citizens are like from what they consider as senior citizens, it's from 60 all the way to an 80-year-old. At that point, depending on your age, do you want to have outpatient on this cover? Do you want to add the extras, the dental, the optical, the maternity? Do you want to have an extra critical illness in it? The premiums will change. That's what determines. So it's not one price fits all. A 30-year-old in company A might pay a little extra in company B, might pay a little extra in company C. So it's different, and it depends on what you're taking, what sort of coverage you want. So how insurance companies manage the risk of covering people with pre-existing conditions or chronic conditions is, you see, insurance is a pool of money. They take money from many different people. Of course, this money is being reinvested to cover your risk, because it's not everybody who's going to get sick. And that's why they limit it. They limit to how much they're willing to pay, because vis-a-vis, if you're buying a cover for 2 million shillings as a 30-year-old, maybe your premium is about 40,000, but these people are promising to cover you to 750,000. You paid 40,000 and your cover is up to 750,000. See, that's a bigger risk. So because insurance is a pool and they spread the risk, and they know the chances of everybody getting sick are next to zero. So that's how insurance is able to cover. And they might charge you. You'll find if you have a pre-existing, sometimes the first year is different, but the second year you might have a surcharge to your premium. They'll load it a little. They load it so they can be able to accommodate that cost. In the recent past, and what I've seen insurance companies do now and take an active interest in, is in your well-being. So I have seen that now they actively send a care manager to you. If you're admitted in hospital, they're coming in. They want to see what sort of room were you put in, what, how's food. They want to know what your experience is. And I think this has helped cement the idea that insurance is for you and they are for you. Okay, just to make sure that you're a happy client. They also are able to, why they have a panel is because with this panel, they've pre-discussed what the costings should be. So this way, they mitigate the risk of you being overcharged or paying too much. So if a hospital has been put on a panel by an insurance company, it's because they're in constant conversations. And of course, Bishwa Insurance does not want to lose money. So that's why they create the panel. This panel has pre-negotiated ratings. They have agreements in place so that you, the client, the policyholder, the end user, are not overpaying on your consultations, overpaying for surgeries or admissions or for drugs or for anything that you may need from the hospital. So I get this question a lot, and can you change your cover? Yes, you can change your coverage. However, you cannot change your coverage in the middle of a policy year. If there are any changes to be made on a cover, it has to be at renewal. Changes would be that you want to upgrade, you want to downgrade, you want to remove the outpatient. But if you're adding a new, say for example, there's a newborn, that can be done in the middle of the year. Then we'll get a prorated rate for this child. But for major changes that you want to downgrade, how much you're covered for, or you want to add a benefit, or you want to move up, that can only be done at the beginning of a policy year, not in the middle of your policy. So no, you can't. Another question I get asked a lot is about the copay. Some people want it, some people don't want it. Now, with medical insurance, we have different types of medical insurance in this country. So we have what was formerly NHIF, that's SHIF, and right now it's pegged on how much you earn, okay? So that's how your ratings are going. Before, I'd really advise and I'd tell people the bare minimum insurance you need to have is an NHIF cover. But we also have now other two types of insurance. When I say two types, I mean the providers. So we have the SHA that's given by the government, and the government has limits also on how much they're going to cover you for. So it's a bit limited depending on your job grade or how much you're contributing to the fund. 2, we have insurance provided by local insurance companies, okay? And this covers, of course, under every insurance company, they have different levels of cover. It works differently and the prices are different. Then we have medical insurance provided by international providers. The first thing I need to demystify and say is, when I speak international medical insurance, I'm not talking about insurance for people who only travel. No, this is medical insurance provided by an international provider that you can use locally. So you pay the premiums. Yes, the premiums are different from local because you're paying in foreign currency. So your covers would primarily be in USD or in GBP in this country, okay? You do not have to be an expatriate to access these medical insurance policies. How do they differ from our local provided medical insurance policies? So the big difference I've seen with the international medical covers and the local is that when you're diagnosed with a critical illness when you're diagnosed with a critical illness, they don't, there are no sublimits to the cover. as long as you came on board and you had no pre-existing conditions and you've been on cover and you've been paying your premiums faithfully, there are no caps on the level of coverage. So whatever your overall limit is, if you're diagnosed with a critical illness, they cover to the full overall limit. The other difference with the international medical insurance policies is that you get to choose what region of cover you want to be covered for. So mostly there's Africa. Africa would include the whole of Africa. That means if you wanted to seek treatment anywhere within Africa, you're covered. And then there's Africa with India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And that means then if you wanted to seek a second opinion, like in India or wherever, you're covered for that. Then there's worldwide excluding USA. Maybe your work or your family, your extended family is out of the country. Because we have indigenous Kenyans whose families are in the UK, they're in Canada, they're in Australia, they live in South Africa or in Dubai. And you want, if you're diagnosed with something, you'd want to be close to family and you want to go seek treatment out there. That's what that provides you with. Of course, for every privilege like that, it's a pretty sum. Not too expensive, but yes. But you can access that as well. Let's talk critical illness. So first off, what is critical illness? I think when you talk to insurance people, especially medical insurance or life insurance, you keep hearing about critical illness. So critical illness is just an umbrella term that's used to define illnesses that are life-threatening and that once you've been diagnosed with, may not leave you, okay? And could cost a pretty sum to keep taking care of. For example, some of the named critical illnesses that you may be familiar with would be a heart attack, stroke, someone going into a coma, kidney failure, cancer, paralysis, just to name but a few. So most insurance policies, you'll note, will have those caps, like I had mentioned. They'll have caps on the levels that insurance is willing to cover you for if you get diagnosed with these critical illnesses. You'll see a cap for newly diagnosed critical illness, there's a limit. If you come on board on cover and you have a pre-existing critical illness or chronic condition, they will cap it as well. However, I needed you to know that there's a way to secure yourself and have a standalone critical illness cover. What would happen, the critical illness would cover various illnesses. Every provider would have named critical illnesses that they consider. And for a premium that you pay to the insurance company, they would cover you to a particular limit you can choose. For example, you can choose for between 1 million shillings all the way to 15 million shillings for different providers, okay? And you'd get a premium. It's based on your age, it's based on your lifestyle, your weight. Are you a smoker? Are you not a smoker? Okay? And these monies are not paid to the hospital once you're diagnosed. This is a lump sum amount that's paid out to you because insurance understands that your life is just about to change. The way you were doing things before is going to change. The energy you had before is not what you have now. So you can use these funds to seek better treatment, to seek treatment abroad if that's what you want to do. So it's a lump sum that's paid out to you and it's only paid out once in a lifetime. All right. So we do have policies that would cover you for, so your primary cover on that critical illness cover is critical illness. But there's a catch when you're wondering, what if I never get diagnosed with a critical illness? Then it covers for loss of life, premature loss of life. So if during the term of your policy, loss of life happened prematurely, there's an amount that's paid out to your family, right? Because you had this cover. Of course, they never paid out critical illness, you never got sick, but the life element was on it. So I thought it prudent to let you know that there are critical illness covers out here that you can have as standalone covers. All right? So please reach out. We're here for you. If you'd like to see what an illustration would look like for you for whatever amount, depending on your age, maybe because of the history that's in your family. And sometimes critical illnesses, again, it's not because you've inherited it. It's all based on your lifestyle. So why would you buy a critical illness cover? I'll tell you why. Remember when I said insurance should be here to make sure that you're protecting your wealth? Imagine getting diagnosed with, for example, cancer. And the medical insurance policy you had has blown. Well, you are running tests and what have you, your policy it's blown and insurance is like, we can't pay anymore. If you had a critical illness policy in place, it would come in and pay you a lump sum that you can continue seeking medical treatment. Sometimes why people have succumbed to some illnesses and maybe there's been delay in treatment is because the funds were not available. So, you hold on treatment as you seek for funds. But imagine if you had a critical illness cover in place that pays you this lump sum and treatment continues. So you're not worried about where will I go get treatment? Where can we get the cheapest hospital? Or what alternatives do I have? And now you're compromising your health. Maybe sometimes we've seen guys who would prefer to go do the mitishamba alternatives, medicine. Sometimes it's not because that's what they want. Sometimes it's because they cannot afford to go into hospital for these particular illnesses. So yes, that's one of the reasons you should have a critical illness cover. So it supplements your medical insurance and so that you're also fully financially protected. When we think about the importance of medical insurance, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why I'm sold out for medical insurance. I'll give you my own story. So my dad started falling ill like in 2018, round about there, and we had some medical insurance for him. And it wasn't anything major, apart from one time he had this growth and they went and they removed it. This is April of 2018, giving you a true story. And when they tested it, they said it was a mass of fat. However, a year later, the growth had recurred. And at that point, I think I had delayed in renewing his medical insurance. And for that particular, he needed to do this surgery. I paid out of pocket. And I paid out of pocket, but I made sure that I got him back onto insurance. But I was in a tight spot. So if you're lucky and you have a good supporting family, they came through and we needed to buy medical insurance, we bought. I just felt like things were not working out. You can't be like me, okay? Don't be too late in buying because you could be unlucky and the waiting periods are longer, especially when you have older parents. And eventually though, he was diagnosed with a high-grade sarcoma. So sarcoma is a form of cancer and it was localized in his chest, but it had gone into all the veins and the organs around his chest. And we now were seeing oncologists. And for me, what struck at that point, and I've always been so grateful for medical insurance, because anytime those bills came, I'd sit back wondering, how was I going to manage this if I was on my own? And I mean, if insurance was not with me. So we did all that. And he had multiple surgeries. And I mean multiple surgeries in our national hospital, KNH. Yes, KNH. And I chose KNH. And I can vouch for their services. We may have been in the private wing, but I can vouch for their services. But I remember this one time and I was discharging him and his bill was at about 1.2 something million at KNH. And I kept wondering, really, how do we have survived? That whole ordeal of him being ill, and I know probably some of you are going through that right now. That whole ordeal of him going through the radiotherapy, the surgeries, the chemo, the surgeries, the constant care was expensive. Those bills ranked up. And nobody can tell me that medical insurance is not a necessity. We buy medical insurance in the hope that when we don't need it, but you want to know that you have someone taking care of your finances in case you ever need it. So yes, so it's very important. The key people who need, we all need medical insurance, but if your parents are getting older, this is when to make sure you're getting them onto coverage. Don't wait until they are they're way older and it's impossible to get them covered, especially locally. And even if you're going to take an international cover, it becomes way expensive. Of course, there are all these waiting periods if they already are coming on board with a pre-existing condition. Most insurance providers locally will require them to do medical examinations before they take them on board. That's something you need to know. So if you don't go into a financial debt, especially when now tables are turning and now we have to take care of our folk, please, you need to talk to me. If you want cover for yourself, if you're thinking about cover for your company, if you're thinking about insurance for your small, you've started a business, it's not really much, very important to reach out to me. Again, our numbers and our email will be at the bottom. Please reach out. We want to hear from you. Again, thank you for watching.